Hey everyone, and welcome back to another meeting of the Tropical Rum Society. As always, I'm Matt, and as you can see, we've had a little bit of a change since the last video. Got a nice new background, some new plants in here that are just kind of like creeping in on me and compressing me down. But luckily, I'm wearing green, so I blend in with them. But maybe in the future, I might wear some different colors so I can stand out and pop a little bit more. But apart from that, the other new thing that we have here today is some new rum, so let's talk about it. So this here is Barbary Coast, and it's actually our first Rhum Agricole that we're looking at for more than 60 seconds. I did do a short on one during part of the Christmas calendar, but this is our first full-size bottle and the first one we're going to actually look at in depth. Now this one holds a special place in my heart because I've just recently come back from San Francisco, and that is where this is from. I actually picked it up in the town that it's from. Sadly, not from the actual distillery itself, but we'll call it close enough. So despite not going there, I can tell you that the distillery this comes from is a small batch distillery in San Francisco called Raff Distillery. They were founded over a decade ago in 2011, and they make a wide variety of products from whiskies through to absinthe and even a 21-year-old Applejack, which just sounds crazy to me, but I actually really want to try. Also, their founding story sounds like something out of an old 1800s pirate novel. They were founded in the old Navy brig on a place literally called Treasure Island by Carter Raff back in 2011. Now, despite that name Carter Raff sounding like he needs an eye patch or a peg leg or something, he actually has a background in metal fabrication and put the entire distillery together himself by hand. Since 2018, they've been over in the Butchertown district of San Francisco, which I wish I had known before buying this bottle instead of afterwards, because it turns out that the liquor store that I got this from was only like 3 kilometers from the distillery. That's what I get for not doing my research beforehand. So before we tackle the details of this actual rum, let's take a quick look at the story behind it. In 1849, gold was found in California and the state just exploded, especially around San Francisco. The city quickly became overwhelmed by the influx of people looking to strike it rich, and there was a particular 9x3 block that became infamous for its lawlessness. There was gambling, there was prostitution, a general sense of kind of anything goes, so that made it a really perfect spot to open up some saloons and bars, and also a perfect place to get a drink. This 9x3 block became known as the Barbary Coast, and in many of these saloons and bars, obviously you'd find plenty of spirits, including rum, just like this one we have here, making it a perfect fit for the name. Now this bottle of Barbary Coast is an agricole style of rum, meaning that it's made from pressed cane juice rather than molasses like most of the rums that we've already reviewed. Barbary Coast here uses sugarcane juice brought in from Colombia, which is then fermented and distilled on a hybrid still to produce this 50% ABV drink. Now the agricole style of rum has a very different flavour profile than those that are made from molasses. So I'm expecting this to be a lot more dry, a lot more earthy, so let's get into it and see if it is. First things first, let's take a look at the label. The label on the bottle kind of ties into what I said earlier about the whole thing sounding like an 1800s pirate novel. That hand-drawn look as well as the deep brown colours definitely evokes kind of a turn of the century sort of vibe to it. Also, a really fun little detail in here is the image of Emperor Norton. So we're not going to go into too much detail on him because that's a whole different story for another time, but the quick summary is in 1859 there was a San Francisco local who proclaimed himself the first emperor of the United States. So if that sounds interesting and intriguing, definitely go give it a Google. It's a great story. Not quite sure why he's on the bottle, but it is a fun little nod to more of that San Francisco history. Alright, I think that is enough talking about this bottle. Let's get to the actual review, starting with pouring it into a glass. Ooh, that was a solid pop. Alright, so pour that in there, and yeah, not too much. That is a very, very clear liquid. Like I'm looking at it and it is completely see-through to the point where I'm looking at it from above and it barely even, you can't really tell where the glass stops and the liquid begins. And oh boy, the nose on this one is pretty pungent. Just going over the top of the glass to look down into it, I could already smell a lot coming out of this glass. So as expected, it's very different from any of the other rums that we've had here. It is a lot more dry and a lot more vegetal. It's earthy and quite surprisingly alcoholic in its smell as well. Oh, really burns the nostrils as I dig into it too deeply. So based on that smell, I'm expecting this one to taste totally different as well. Let's see if it does. Oh, it's quite bitey. Really just, oh, goodness. Okay, there's a lot going on. Let me try and put it into some words instead of just sounds. So yeah, that is quite bitey, and it's really kind of like a peppery kind of spiciness to it as well. It's very, very intense on the alcohol burn in the second that it hits my mouth, or at least it was on the first sip, so let's give another one a go, see if it does it again. Okay, nowhere near as intense the second time around. Maybe I just went too hard too soon on that first one. But that is quite warming. It has a very nice warming sensation coming down the throat all the way into my chest. So the way that I would describe this, if I had to put it into a single scenario of just my mental image, is you're standing out in a field, but it's just rained, so you're in a puddle, but you also have a nice big cozy jacket on. So it's earthy, that's the smell that you're feeling in this scenario. You're feeling nice and warm from the jacket, and everything's kind of fresh and refreshing and nice. Except for your feet, which are standing in that puddle soaking in the water, making you just a little bit kind of off-put by the whole situation. So hopefully that makes sense, but if it doesn't, here's what I suggest. Jump on a plane and fly to San Francisco, find yourself a bottle of this, not from the distillery, but from somewhere very nearby, buy it, taste it, and then let me know in the comments below if that helps with your understanding. And while you do that, I'm going to have another sip of this. And now it's all gone, so let's do a quick summary and get this one over on the shelf. So overall, today has been a very different sort of meeting for the Tropical Rum Society. We have a new background, we tried a Rhum Agricole instead of one of the molasses-based rums. I tried a little bit of a different style of description. So let me know what you think of all of it down in the comments below. I'm always interested to try and improve and make things better. So if you have any ideas, let me know. And if you have any other rums, agricole or molasses-based, that you'd like me to review, throw them down there as well. I am very pleased that I picked up this bottle while I was over in San Francisco. It's got a very interesting flavor. It's very different from what we're used to, and I wouldn't really have picked this out as a rum if you had given it to me without knowing beforehand. That just goes to show you how wide and varied the wonderful world of rum is, and I'd be really interested to see how this one stacks up against one of my more regular sorts of rums that I put into a daiquiri. See what that's like in a cocktail. Let me know if you want to see that. But anyway, that's a video for the future, so for now, let's get this on the shelf, and I will see you in the next meeting.